Hello and welcome back to the Gold Advantage on the Best-of-3 Network, where we bring you the latest info, betting tips, and entertainment from League of Legends, LCS, and LEC. I am your host, as always, Nikita, and with me are BNB, Big Money, Blivs, and Scoot. How are you guys doing?
I am a G230 Maxi at this point, and I've done it again, I'm pretty sure. If I remember my words properly from last week, which, you know, if edited properly, can say whatever I want them to say. However, G230. Again, we love Carlos. I love the LEC and I love G2. So I'm doing great.
Needless to say, my Immortals 3-0 weekend prediction did not quite go according to plan.
Tough luck.
With that being said, a very exciting weekend of League. I got to watch a ton of it, and so I am more than excited to jump into it and discuss it with you.
Can I get some finality, just real quick, on you saying that BDS are the worst team in the LEC?
Can you get some finality on Team BDS winning the Rocket League championship series, winning the championship just as I predicted?
It's all like full circle.
It's like fucking Schalke basketball or whatever, or Barcelona basketball winning a championship and then being like, "Oh, we won La Liga." Like, that's not the same fucking thing. All right, whatever.
Don't worry. I got
full roster.
Oh god, he has it.
The full ranking, the preseason rankings ready right here. So when our fearless leader decides,
we're kicking it off with the LCS.
We will review our
LCS is
predictions.
what we're kicking it off with. Let's save the review for the end. I think something for everyone to look forward to.
Okay.
I think I want to kick it off with was format is still terrible. It's 8 teams getting in. It's not like the summer season, so they're trying to open it up for the championship series. I think it's just the worst, especially when you're looking at a team that we had a match between Golden Guardians and was it Immortal? Dignitas. So we potentially had Dignitas. A 4-13 team.
Dude, I mean, that was...
How could you forget about that barn burner?
I said this in Discord. I was shaving, and I had it on, in the morning, or, while I was doing that. I don't understand. One...
For the record, that game was at 5 p.m.
I was shaving in the
at 5 p.m.
is before bed, whatever, before, you take care of your face, all that stuff. Everybody wash your face, shave. Don't forget about that.
Make sure you lotion.
One, was extremely confused as to what was going on, and I had to keep looking at my phone. So, of course, I nicked myself somewhere along the way. But,
why do you still have stubble on your face, though?
Because I started growing facial hair at a faster rate. It's called puberty, which I'm now hitting as a 23.
Chris got my joke.
So, yeah, great. All right, whatever.
What were you shaving?
Who knows? Confusing and also the worst match ever. But at the same time, extremely entertaining. So,
but we have literally EG 15-3, and on the bottom we have 3-15 for Dignitas, and both teams had a potential to make it to playoffs. Is just this is
what I want to get into, because I mean, you have your European charm in a way of saying things in a quite cordial manner, as opposed to this is bullshit hand holding. Yeah. I don't understand how it's legal that TSM and Golden Guardians are playing playoff matches right now.
I mean, BNB was upset when it's a .500 making it in. How would you would have been apoplectic at 3-15.
You know what also fucking pisses me off a lot is now if in the craziest reality, TSM finish above CLG, it's going to be Reggie told the truth moment.
This is one of those things. This is what they're kind of trying to say. They're like, it's a championship. This is for the end of the year, so we want a miracle run. And they had this a few years ago where the third spot came from this fine last chance qualifier, similar to what they had in Valorant. And C9 at the time with High in Jungle did this crazy run. They weren't that good, and then they beat everyone in best of fives, and they made it towards. It was incredible. One of the best moments in League. But it's still Cloud9 with one of the best teams. It's not fucking Dignitas. I watched Jat's podcast, JLXP, recently, and he made a good point of what happens if we did an NBA-style play-in. So instead of having 8 teams going in, you have 8 and 7 playing each other, and the winner of that plays the 6th place team, and the winner of that goes into playoffs. And you do that like the day after the regular season ends. So it's like today, you don't wait a week, none of this bullshit. It happens straight away. And suddenly it opens it up. So like, you have a team and they do, let's say, best of 3s across one day. So you have a chance for like this exciting kind of last chance miracle run to break in. But keeps it to 6 teams.
And it's a little bit more elevated. It's a little bit more elevated than best of 1.
It also works way better for esports, which has its charm of like you never really know who's ready for playoffs. Like that's the one thing about gaming is that
best of 3s and stuff like that, best of 5s. So,
whereas like in basketball, right, they're playing the same game every day, and there's not like different champions,
no patch
shit
notes.
like that. You can't like bring out fucking crazy shit. In
the ball doesn't suddenly change in like bounciness or heaviness.
Yeah, you're not playing NBA Jam on your iPhone from like 12 years ago or whatever.
But I actually think that would be actually exciting because you suddenly have these teams and it's like, hey, can Golden Guardians get their shit together? Does TSM deserve to take the spot over FlyQuest? No, but it gives us something with a bit of stakes and a little bit more excitement. Whereas the anticipation I'm feeling of seeing Golden Guardians and TSM match up against someone is like non-existent.
Yeah, agree. I mean, they're terrible.
I mean, let me be incredibly clear about this, right? Like, and we'll talk about the LEC later, but like, you cannot have a team that goes 33% in your fucking playoffs. You cannot have a team that goes 28% in your fucking playoffs. Like, that's embarrassing. Unless, and to your point, you have a best of 3 between 7, 8, and then you have another best of 3 between 6 and whoever wins that. Now you have the potential to have 4 more wins or 6 more wins, and now you have a respectable record.
Maybe you're a better best of 3 team. Maybe you're better like actual forget the variance. Like you proved it. Sure, I'm good with that.
I mean, this is so contrary to like Schalke running the table for however many weeks straight, which is like one of the craziest things that has happened in the LEC. It was so fun to watch, and now you get this garbage across the pond. But like, there's not much to say about it.
It's infuriating. It's just it's dumb as shit. Again, just like TSM should not be in the playoffs. Golden Guardians. Congratulations on being
they flipped Elder.
They were on a 0-6 or 0-7 losing streak. So, well done. You beat Dig to make it.
Yeah, but what happens at the end of a 0-7? You flip Elder in a 45-minute match to win it after losing every objective before that.
How are people not riveted by those sorts of games? I tuned in at like 20 minutes and it was like 4 kills and I was like, oh, great. It's that sort of match. All right, look, I don't waste more time. I think we're in agreement. Format is trash. I do like the idea of the play-in. Let's quickly go through the rankings, forgetting TSM and Golden Guardians because they're irrelevant. Bottom up, top down. Do you guys want to start with the best team or the worst team? Best team?
Best team.
EG. All right, EG. EG sitting, finished off the season 15-3. I think what a phenomenal year.
3 respectable losses. Yep. 3 respectable losses to the likes of Team Liquid, Thieves. CLG. Who would have thought we'd ever say that?
The team's right behind them. So totally fine. And 2 of those one of those I would say it definitely was winnable. The 100 Thieves one was like on a knife's edge. The TL one, they kind of ran it down and whatever. That's fine.
So EG, great season. Not to jump into too many things that I know we're going to talk about, but one of the 3 of us had Evil Geniuses in first place in their preseason predictions. It's not you 2. That must mean that it's just me. So far,
look at that.
I've already won. I've already won.
It's a shame we didn't put any money on it.
It's the rest of the conversation.
You didn't win shit, and you haven't won anyone any money. All right, let's get real here. Come on.
And not only that, you guys had Team Liquid to win.
Yeah, as any sane.
All right, so what did you not understand by? We'll do the recap at the end. What?
And then all three of us
just
had
him.
fucking 100 Thieves in second. So I got the first and the second person.
I'm going to cut him out
teams
because
correct. Fucking
that's
100%.
That's the exact opposite of we'll go through our recap at the end. Scoot, just mute him from now on.
This is me tearing up his contract to the best of 3 network.
How am I meant to edit this into a nice, clean clip now?
Because he's a content terrorist. That's what he is. All right, let's
very
first
clearly
of all, be realistic.
Don't worry.
You ruined it all. All right, getting back on track.
Okay,
EG,
Nikita, don't worry. I will tell you.
Some people haven't spoken yet, Bucko.
I know.
All right.
Okay, go for it, Scoot.
Yeah, here's where I stand on this. Yes, I had them, a little bit lower down, as Chris has already spoiled the end of this podcast, as he so graciously did.
You had third.
I know I did. And that's because, I expected this team to progress as the year went on. First of all, those are from pre-spring, right? Like, it doesn't even matter. Irrelevant.
The 4th of
listen,
January. Some of us have insight into the future.
It's about being right
don't.
at the right times, which I have been during every single playoff run this year. So let's start there. But EG, expected them to progress over the course of the season. I said at the end of spring, it happened way quicker than I expected. And my worry coming out of that is, where's the regression, right? You get this explosive growth, and then you become a team that's quite formidable, ends up at MSI representing NA, and, they kept the ball rolling. Like, props to them. That's the one thing I was worried about is this team going to regress? Is there going to be too much league played, right? Like, something like that. But, they stepped on the gas, and it did not let up this entire split. So, fuck yeah. They're sick.
Yeah, so basically, they actually, if you look at last season, they finished 8-8, which is fine, but really not that great. And then they went on this massive.
They used to be called the Gatekeepers.
They used to be called the Gatekeepers. It looked like they were continuing it, but we look at the new roster, fresh start, 8-8. It's fine. They went on an incredible playoff run, but now again they went to MSI, avoided the MSI hangover, and then massively improved their regular season record from 8-8 to 15-3. Like, by all intents and purposes, this team is just getting better and better. Danny is still putting up monstrous numbers around leading the league in kills and damage per minute, as far as I'm aware. Jojo, I think, is playing for the team better than ever. Inspired is without a doubt going to win MVP, and very deservedly so. And Impact is putting up incredible, just playing like the rock that he needs to be in the top lane. So all around, I think the team is playing so well, and I think completely deserve to be going into this as the favorites to repeat. I think that's kind of just
and
unanimous.
Betters will forget that Danny is due for a pentakill this playoffs. Of course, you need to remember that at some point, especially if as we get later, your percentage chance increases because he will get one. He always gets his. So just remember that as we head in.
Yeah.
Who is he? Attack?
Attach?
It was EG. Yeah. EG against Cloud9. EG's about to fucking blow it. They're clearly leading. They end up going for around the base. They end up getting 3 killed. Inspired ends up becoming the last of 2 people left. Ends up 3-piecing fucking Cloud9 to save the game for them in what was maybe the most insane play that I remember seeing from the entire this past weekend. Inspired to I bring it up just because I wanted to emphasize how phenomenal he has been throughout the season. And as I said in Discord, Inspired is pretty inspiring, and I very much look forward to betting for them to, I don't know have they already locked in Worlds based on their performance in the spring, and then this?
It was insane for sure, but he was pretty fed at that point. So
yeah, but he was fucking had the smallest amount of health. The fact that he was able to flip it and get 3 kills and basically save the game for EG. If Cloud9 had wiped him and then been able to go down and claim an objective and maybe go towards the base, that game could have actually gotten
They're a clutch
turned.
team,
EG was leading convincingly.
When they're under
Inspired's
pressure,
a clutch player.
the team is clutch, and they step up. I think they have a very good mentality. They seem to like playing with each other. They're just a clutch team, and I think they're by far the favorites for this across the board. I think we're all in agreement there. 100 Thieves, second place.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting one to me because this is their best split ever. 14-4. That's their best record. It's happened really quietly. Weirdly, and even analysts and like the broadcast and podcasts have admitted this. Everyone has been quite critical of 100 Thieves, and yet this is the best season that they've had. Better than the one that they won. They're actually looking better than I think they did when they won the split. Everyone on the team is looking great from the start of the season. There's a lot of criticism, and I think what ended up, like people are saying, is just that everyone knows how good 100 Thieves can be. And so when they weren't performing like that, they had a few weeks weren't so good. FBI Huhi, Abadage had a couple of bad ones. People kind of hung on to those criticisms, and it took a while for it to reset. But they are like fucking popping off at exactly the right time. They nearly went perfect 9-0 second half, which has never been done before. Of course they lose one. We predicted it. I told you guys.
You had that 8-1. Right.
They went 8-1. Right. But like
I said, 100 Thieves 3-0. You're like, no, they always lose one in the last weekend.
They're gonna lose something.
One.
And they did.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a crazy call.
And they did 8-1 in the second half with a 7. What was it? It was a 6-game run, lose one, then lost 2. They looked great in that match against TL, where a couple of things went wrong early game. They were down a lot of gold, and a lot of teams I think would have mentally checked out and given up. They pulled it back. They knew they could win it, and they played so disciplined, which is something I think they've struggled with in the past. I'm so impressed by that. And when I look across the board, like the whole team, this is like EG. I look at Ssumday, he's also having an MVP level performance this season. Closer, I think, is also within contention. Inspired has been a cut above, so I'll let that go, but I think both of them. Abadage, right now, in my opinion, best mid in the game.
Agreed.
In North America.
In North America.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Yeah.
There's Jojopyun.
Let's calm down a little bit. Yeah.
There's like a lot of other
Korean guys who are pretty good, yeah.
But
in the LCS,
a couple of legends.
And the bot lane is also playing incredibly well in that last game, like Huhi and FBI just like popping off. So it's hard for me to imagine a world where we don't have 100 Thieves EG in the finals again.
I have 100 Thieves as the favorite to win this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think 100 Thieves is winning it all.
I can see it. I can see it. I do think like this is very similar to like how when they did win it, except better.
Yeah.
So I could totally see
that's exactly what I'm seeing at the same time. This is a team that, you talk about scaling comps and shit like that, but they've scaled over the course of this entire season and only gotten better and more formidable. And then you add in the fact that Ssumday is already playing crazy with the fact that now his teammates are playing around that level. I'm not going to say like they're playing at his level because he's having an insane split. But, once you get that support in there and once you're funneling resources to the right players, and now that can be any of the 5 players, obviously outside of support for the most part, but like they look so cohesive and so solid, and to only lose one match in the second half. And honestly, I think part of that is just looking past FlyQuest a little bit.
They lost to FlyQuest twice, which I think is actually really interesting. It's like the one team that's
FlyQuest doesn't interest me, but like, and I really don't care that 100 Thieves lost them. It's about I think it's about time that they get hot. But also, Nikki, you make a good point. Like, there is so much pressure on this brand to perform because now they're like, still technically fairly new brand of the LCS. I mean, they've been around for a decent amount of time now, so it's hard to say that. But they've now won, and they've kept this roster around. They've already won. And then you add in the notoriety of it being 100 Thieves, right? Yeah. Like, there is a lot of pressure to, one, if shit's not working, like, spend money and fix it. But if shit's working, make it work better.
And it's working. And the team looks so, like, even when they were losing a couple matches, talking when people were critical of them, the team was just talking about it. Like, this is where we made a mistake. We know we're getting better. I just think the mentality of this team and the way they play together is also great. They're
great shit talkers, too.
Exactly. Great shit talkers. EG is too. I love both of our first and second place teams, and whoever wins it, I'm super happy, and I can't wait to see them play a best of 5 because I think it is going to be a banger. I hope it is because last season was last split wasn't. So,
well, just for the record, Scoot should care about FlyQuest beating 100 Thieves twice because should FlyQuest, who been on a bit of a roll,
FlyQuest is overrated.
we could say, this past weekend, before getting
so
destroyed by
overrated.
Cloud9 in the playoff, they played Team Liquid, and if they are somehow sneak through Team Liquid, they're playing.
Okay,
100
they
Thieves.
will. If they
I'm
beat
not sure.
TL, they will
Yeah.
lose to 100 Thieves, and the odds that they beat TL are low, if not 0. So, that's my take.
yeah.
I
with
have
that
your
one.
solution, and if they win both of those, I will admit that FlyQuest is okay. There you go.
I'm good with that. Okay, jumping up, next one we have is TL. So TL's a weird one, my opinion. Kick it off. I think they're getting better. I genuinely think they're fixing a lot of the problems. They were kind of all over the place where they're playing through, and I think they're playing better and better. I still don't think they are fully synergized in the way that they're playing. It's almost... it's not, not to spoil it somewhat, something like Vitality, where it's 5 talented individuals. I think that's similar to this, but I just think they play the game differently. And I think that's where we're running into issues between them, is that they have different styles of playing the game, and it's not fully meshing.
I
find it hard to see them as a threat. That's my problem. It's like I think they're playing better than ever. Their early game is incredible. I think they have some drafting issues. They're always going to be a threat. They're such veterans. But I almost think that's hindering them a little bit.
I mean, like, if they go down 0-2, they're still going to win because they have Bjergsen. So, like, they have to lose in a fashion where they're ahead of prior. There's a lot of esports storylines to factor in there. But I would agree with you in that they don't look... I don't know if coordinated is the word. It's just a little bizarre. Like, almost... They're not engaging at the same time, and it doesn't feel like everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, like, immediate. Like, it's almost like Hans is like a second late to where he needs to be, and then he gets caught out because he's late and then killed or something. Like, stuff like that is just happening a little bit too much for me to be, like, super comfortable with TL. I still think they will beat FlyQuest, but I agree they're playing a lot better. However, like, laning when you have that many veterans is should be simple. And where was I going with I'm trying to think. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is it's so bizarre to hear you say that, like, yeah, they're learning because, like, you look across the board and it's literally just 5 exceptional league players.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, I don't know. It's a weird case for TL.
It's a weird one. I just don't see them being able to beat 100 Thieves and EG. I think they will get to Worlds.
It's the most perplexing team because they can beat EG. They can beat 100 Thieves, but then they can also go and lose to very much the likes of your standard like TSM, right? Or and I like CLG, but for them to lose to CLG is just a bit surprising. Or they lose to Cloud9 in a year where Cloud9 is not the Cloud9 that we're used to. So. To me, it's a very perplexing team. To what Scott's point, right? Like, you look at that roster, though, like Bwipo, Santorin, Bjergsen, Hansama, Core JJ, like, that's not a team to be fucked with, and especially when it comes to playoffs. Like, these guys have some playoff resumes that are...
it feels like while they're getting better, too, like, they're almost not malleable enough to, like in the ways they're winning, it's almost like not malleable enough to make them consistent over a best of 5 against a good team who like knows how to draft one to their strengths, but also two to like TL's weaknesses. Like it's pretty rigid.
I think your point though also, and maybe this isn't your point, but I'm stealing it as your point, which is it's a bit of an older team, whereas if you look up at 100 Thieves and EG, like. Both of those are quite young teams. Like, obviously, there's some older players in there, but, like...
It's like a veteran anchoring.
The best players of both those teams... Yeah, exactly. But, like, the guys who are, like, making the amazing plays, the ones who are like the Jojopyuns, the Inspireds, like the Dannys, like these guys are fucking young as shit, right? And then you have the Vulcans, you have the Impacts, you have the Abidages and the Huhis and the FBIs who are I think FBI is a bit older, but like they're younger teams compared to the Team Liquids of the world, or even like the Cloud9s, where you have Sven, Berserker, Fudge.
I feel like those teams, a lot of the time, it's because the young players are raw and skilled, and they have a veteran player who's
creative.
Able to guide them in the direction of like play. So it's like, hey, you can execute this, and we'll teach you certain things. You can elevate it to a certain level, but there's a defining voice. The problem with something like Team Liquid is that you have 5 very successful voices. Like everyone on that team is a champ. I think. I'm pretty sure everyone is a champ on that team.
Yeah,
and it's
I
like,
also think.
I think
what happens also when you're younger.
Hans is the only one that might not be.
You're able to adapt. You're able to adapt to metas quicker because you're not as stuck in the rigid.
I don't think that's the case. I don't.
I think
if you're a veteran that has been playing for 8 seasons, like Impact, like Bjergsen, you're not stuck in the meta. But every season has like 6 metas, and they've adapted. And like Bjergsen has been at the top of the game for like 6 years running.
But I also like
he go through.
You also have to understand that like these guys are like at the same time, yes, like they've adapted to metas over time, right, and gotten better along the way. But at the same time, seeing as they're older and seeing as they are nearing the end of their careers, they are playing for their legacy to a certain extent, and to like throw that away on a risky pick in the playoffs, like Bjergsen can have a crazy career, but if he goes AWOL and throws a mid pick out there that costs him a series or something like that, that is going to be baked into his legacy for eternity. People are going to remember that. There's almost like you think, I would obviously bet to say that like Jojo and Danny are way more likely to go out on a limb and throw a pick in there that will either win or lose them the game, definitely, than somebody like Bjergsen, or, I mean, Hans is, I think, slightly younger than the rest of the team.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, at this point, they're playing for, like, what is the rest of their careers, and those years are winding down. So that definitely has some effect on mentality and, like, how willing to step outside of your comfort zone you are, I think, in my opinion. Like, what you're willing to risk.
But I still go back to my kind of, when you're young, you're just more creative. You just kind of fucking see shit that you don't see as well or as fast or as clearly when you're older, right? And I think there's a lot of baked in, like you've played a lot, and so
I don't know if you. I don't know if I think you have less rigidity in the way that you're.
It's live match stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with that. I think. Look, I kind of bring this. I agree with you. I think. But I still maintain that I do think that TL. I don't think the players are. I think the players could take over. If they did really well, they are all still talented.
Look,
I don't think it's I think, but they do think that they're struggling a little bit to find it. They have found it. It looks better and better in the last like 3 or 4 weeks. I feel like it's better than ever. So you've got to keep an eye on them, because I do think that they could upset.
I think the fundamental point here is if you catch every single team on the LCS in their worst day, the foundation for TL is better than any other single team in the LCS. Like, if they were all playing their worst league on a given day, TL is beating the fuck out of everyone. But, like, again, like, you got to take risks at some point, and I think that's also why you get electric plays in the LCS and why they're coming from younger players on, like, a more common basis than, like, you get from veterans, I would say.
Okay.
As the only person to perfectly predict the top 3.
All right. CLG.
I'm glad you guys
CLG,
have learned
baby.
the ways of your
Talk about risks.
11-7, young team. I'm just like, I think, there's a couple of, in this recap, especially on other leagues, I think there's certain teams that you can look at and just like, what an incredible success. EG is one of them. Like, what a success that was, bringing in Danny, bringing in Jojo. I think CLG, another one. Like, so many young players, they make one swap out for Dokla, who has been, I think, I actually, if you broaden that conversation of MVP, he could be considered because I think he's really unlocked the CLG ability.
He's changed. He's elevated the number, ceiling for a team more than
I think that's a great way of putting it. I think the org also just. This has been talked about a lot. Contracts was horrendous in the spring split. The fact that the org kept him and gave him the time to make those mistakes and learn from them, and now he's playing really well. And so many orgs would have been like, "Hey, we're in a win now. Get rid of him. Get a veteran in. Play safe." And they would have gotten, you know what? They would have gotten 8th, 7th, or 6th place, and they would have been like, "How much better is that than the 10th place?" And instead, no, they said, "No, we believe in this team. It's a young team. We can teach them. They can learn." Palafox as well is playing really well. I'm like,
on the back of that,
whatever happens here, what a successful year, and I'm so happy to see a CLG that has been like back to back for 4 splits in a row, 10th place, to now 4th. Exciting.
Yeah,
just
they're about to get relegated.
I do want to note that they didn't move contracts to the bench or try to move them at all and make that replacement win now. Yeah. That's also an extremely, not young staff, but a brand new staff that they brought in the offseason. And that is a huge risk to take when you're trying to prove that, we're about to do the right, we're going to do the right things to make this team better, right? And show improvement over time. And to take that risk on a guy who had a pretty bad first split, that spring split was not good. But, I mean, goddamn did he step up. He was fundamental to them having... Yep. A good summer, and Dokla obviously, bigger role in some regard, but contracts to play at the level that he has, extremely beneficial for CLG. It has impacted them enormously along with Dokla.
We were chatting about this a little bit earlier, and I don't want to dive into this too much because we're going to do individual match predictions and breakdowns on a separate podcast, but they're very fast and fluid. They play a lot of games almost like it's a scrim, and it allows them to win, to get really early first bloods. I think that their first bloods are way ahead of everyone else in the league. Average time, they're just
67%.
Well, yeah, but it's the time I'm talking about. So they get first blood by 3.5 minutes or something like that. I heard someone on broadcast talking about this. Whereas the rest of the league, it's 5 to 7. So they really try to push it, and they're playing it in their way, which I think is great. However, it's a bit sloppy.
This is
I think their jungle reads and their ganks have been very good.
The team.
Yeah. I find it, they're in 4th place, and I think that is exactly where they deserve to be, and I wouldn't be surprised if they end playoffs like that, because I don't know that they can beat TL, e.g. 100 Thieves in a best of 5. I don't think so. I do think they can beat C9 and FlyQuest. That's kind of my opinion there.
I think the thing that can fuel them past teams that are better than them definitively, we know that those 3 teams are 100% better than them. You could also argue that Cloud9 is maybe better than them on a player-by-player basis. The one thing that is in their favor is pretty much a nothing-to-lose mentality at this point. Because, what do they have to prove? They've already made so many improvements. Now, anything that happens afterwards is a cherry on top. And yes, everyone is out there to win the LCS, obviously. But, nobody on this podcast was sitting down at the beginning of summer and being like, "Oh, CLG is going to be a contender for the title." Even
no way.
Now they're in that conversation. And
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a stretch.
I think it's a stretch, but they are top 4, as you said.
Yeah.
In that, if you realistically boil it down, if it were to only be 4 teams to make the playoffs, they're in contention at that point. So, and anything can happen. It's esports. It would be wonderful if they won it, but.
This is clearly a team that is very aggressive, and they play with that youthful exuberance that we were just talking about. This is a team that will go, they will force the issues, right? Now, against better teams, that doesn't work as well because they're going to see your mistakes and they'll expose them and they'll take advantage of them. So when they go and play 100 Thieves, as they did this weekend, they get crushed. But they also force you in positions where you will make mistakes. And then they've been able to kind of capitalize on that. And as a team, they have the 3rd best mid to late game rating, which for this patch in particular, has been extremely useful for teams who have a late game comp. And we've seen across the LEC and the LCS where a team who jumps out to an early game lead, that is not secure. There is a lot of late game comebacks. I say comebacks, but it's probably part of the strategy where the early dragons or the early kills do not translate necessarily into games won. And that is, I think, really different for this split or these patches as opposed to previous that we've seen across other seasons. And so to me, I think that the fact that they have such a strong mid to late game rating, I actually think gives them a chance for playoffs, maybe to upset and surprise some people. And as well, I'm not sure if their playstyle translates well into best of fives. I do think it works really well in a best of one when you can catch people by surprise and you can keep forcing like an error here and there and then take advantage of it. In a longer drawn out series, teams will know what to kind of look for a bit more, and I think they might be able to adapt to that. But across the board, I mean, Nikki, you said it. Here in America, if you don't win, you're like, why we don't consider it successful. But given that this team was in dead fucking last for the last 4 splits, like this is a smashing success. Congratulations to CLG. It's always been a favorite of mine. And once again, Nikki, you had them the worst in our group. So
I do want to say though,
it's been a great episode, guys.
Great
We're running out of time. No, but like I think that's a great way to sum it up. And just in the interest of time, I think let's kind of keep it rolling.
Can I make a point very quickly? Yeah. Okay, recent struggles may be due to the fact that they did buff dragons a little bit, and it takes a little bit of prio off mid to late because now you can dragon stack. And it actually means something, whereas before it was like you stop the dragon stack at 2 and you go get Baron and the game's over. But I like to see the dragons come back, and I think that might contribute to CLG struggling a little bit. So there you go.
Yep. C9 finish in 5th place, 11-8. They are another team I think based
10-8.
Okay, they won
technically
the
10-8.
tiebreaker.
They didn't just win the tiebreaker.
They won the
just
tiebreaker.
Smashed the tiebreaker. I think C9 to me is a bit of an odd one because they're good. I think they're inconsistent. You have a team that is Fudge in top lane. We know how great he is. Blaber, multiple-time MVP. Bjergsen, incredible mid laner, second best of all time, voted in. Berserker, mechanically insane. Sven, very cerebral, good player. So on paper, should have been a great team. I think I had them quite high up with the potential to win it all. But it's a weird one in that I just feel like they're inconsistent. It's very like they'll either win or just kind of flop, and I don't know. People are saying like they haven't had much time to practice. Teams come in late. All of this stuff. I just think there's things to iron out. Yeah,
they're just losing to better teams. They're just losing to better teams. Yeah. Like they're not beating an EG, 100 Thieves, a TL. For them, disappointing season, I would say, kind of just like based on who their roster is. I don't know. We definitely, based on time, don't need to step through every single team in exhausting detail, but needless to say, 5th feels right for this team, to be completely honest. And I don't have much higher expectations for playoffs
my
either.
point on C9 is just that it is extremely difficult to step into another split where you've changed your roster fairly drastically. And I would agree to a point that 5th feels right, but I think, there's still a little bit of a ceiling there where they can perform. Sorry, I lost you guys there for a second. So I was like, or we lost Chris or something. I'm so confused. I think the ceiling's still there.
He's frozen for me. Yeah. Anyway, we can keep it going. The ceiling is there. I think technically, like, they are... I actually would say they're in some ways more talented than TL. So if I'm saying TL is a threat, pound for pound, if you look across the board, I do think that C9 is as good, if not better. And so, we have that kind of threat there.
Yeah, do you think to an extent Berserker is almost mechanically gifted to the point where he's more aggressive than Sven is willing to be comfortable as a more cerebral player? Just
I think Berserker is going to be one of... Oh, we've actually fully lost him. Okay, well, we fully lost B&B. Don't know what's happening there. I think Berserker is so talented. He lacks experience, but is incredibly talented. So he'll push the boundaries in terms of, I can get a pentakill. Not having the experience to recognize that actually this is a bad pentakill to go for. Yeah. Okay. And he just needs time and a veteran to kind of teach him there. It's rough, tough.
Listen, I
did
say they're overrated. Back. One.
Here we go. B&B is back.
I definitely
anyway,
did
we're on to the LEC,
B&B.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about the things. No, we're just talking about FlyQuest. I just said quickly, just to say, Scoot said they're overrated. I said I don't think they're overrated. I think they're rated correctly. I think they're better than Spring Split. I said that Philip, I thought, was going to be the downfall, would knock them out of top 6. In fact, he's performed really well. He's made some big mistakes, but they're clearly due to inexperience. He's made them once, punished for it. He's not going to make it again. I think this is a team that should be fairly happy with what they did. They brought in a LFL mid laner. They've given Jose Diodo the time to kind of get comfortable. Brought in a really, really raw rookie top laner who's performed actually pretty well. I hope they re-sign it for next year. 6th place, I think, is a success for them. I think they could upset Cloud9 in CLG. It's hard to see, though, given how hard Cloud9 beat them.
Best of one team. That's what they are. They're a best of one team, first of all. And second of all, I think fundamentally probably the most important player of this roster who, I said they're overrated. I stand by it. Still had a good split, though. They're a best of one team. But Afro moved to rein in a team that is, fairly young as a veteran. And I would say the sole veteran on this team, or the very clear one. Johnson, you could maybe make an argument for, I think.
Yeah, I don't think so much, yeah.
Afro moved, definitely the vet here, reined it in. Props to him. Playing a lot of Yumi, but it is what it is. He's a sport player, so.
Yep, with you on that one. B&B, give us the rankings.
All right.
Save yourself for last, since, don't climax too early.
I've already climaxed multiple times on this podcast. Nikki, I'll start with you. You had probably the second best rankings, depending on how you look at it. So you had Team Liquid first, 100 Thieves second, EG third,
right?
Cloud9 fourth, TSM fifth, Golden Guardians sixth, Immortals seventh, CLG eighth, FlyQuest ninth, and Dignitas 10th. So you had the last place team correctly. Not much else.
My FlyQuest was a big one because when they brought in Philip, I was like, nah. Regret.
I want to remind you that I made these predictions when LS was still the coach and Summit was still playing League.
That's true.
Scoot.
So this is
rankings
right away.
Team Liquid first.
No, it's Liquid.
100 Thieves second. C9 third.
Yeah.
EG fourth.
I'd stand by that.
Yeah, sure.
If LS was their coach, I honestly think C9 wins the entire thing, but whatever.
TSM 5th, CLG 6th, Immortals 7th, Dignitas 8th, Golden Guardians 9th, and FlyQuest 10th.
I hate FlyQuest. I'm a hater. I will admit it. I'm a hater.
And drum roll, but me with unquestionably the best predictions of
Nikki, you ready to talk
season.
about Vitality?
EG first, 100 Thieves second, Team Liquid third, TSM fourth, Cloud9 fifth. Got that. CLG sixth, so a little out of order.
Pretty good.
Immortals seventh, Golden Guardians eighth, FlyQuest ninth, and then Dignitas 10th. So the only one I really missed out on was FlyQuest.
That is phenomenal predictions. Phenomenal. I'm very happy to tip my hat off to you. Yeah, I mean, it's preseason. I'm with you on that. I definitely didn't see.
Don't worry, we all fucked up on the LEC. So
yeah, that's a big one. Well, okay, talking about the LEC because we're already 45 minutes into this podcast. I think I'm gonna have to divide.
I'm only 4 minutes in now.
Yeah, you dipped out, took a little tinkle. Top 6 again. Let's talk about. But before we do, Jesus Christ, Vitality. Pulled off a reverse Schalke where it's like, they're in playoffs and they basically ran it down until their way out. They lost it all. I mean, I have no idea how they missed out on playoffs, but going 0-3 in the last week, I think if they won one match, they would have been fine. This is the least clutch super team I have ever seen, and what a fucking disaster.
I mean, this is
4
exactly
losses in a
what
row.
Perkz needed to turn his career from, to solidify it from legend to meme. It almost follows that entire arc. It's honestly sad.
But
I think he's been playing pretty well. I'll give him that.
He
I think he has been, but Jesus, I Kazi, I never really liked him on Mad Lions, and that continues on. I think Karu actually played but this is just, it's a shockingly, what a fucking disaster.
Alfari continues to win lane, lose game, and he did it 3 times in that weekend. So
actually, a 4 loss in a row record isn't even telling the whole story. It's actually 5 losses in a row to finish the season.
Yeah.
And not only that, it is to teams, you're fine with them losing to Rogue.
Yeah.
You get that.
Yeah.
You're fine even with them maybe losing to Fnatic. Not a good Fnatic.
Not a good Fnatic, but they still, Fnatic was very good last split. They had a weird
You can
mix-up.
excuse it.
Yeah.
Losing to Astralis and losing to fucking SK and then getting embarrassed the way that they did against XL in a winner. Despite your atrocious 4 last losses, you can still revive this season.
You're meant to be veterans with the clutch factor, but none of it. This is the least clutch team I've ever seen. I think it's a disaster.
It's embarrassing. It's worse than that. It's embarrassing. If you're on that team, you should be embarrassed.
They didn't make playoffs. Fuck them.
Whereas if you're XL, so that you mentioned XL, XL, that clutch factor, they make playoffs again, so 2 splits in a row. How great is it for them? I think it's unfortunate. They seem to, I don't know what happened mid-split, but they lost some of their momentum. I'm less bullish on them now. They're just something that wasn't clicking that well.
By the way,
I think personally, what I saw a lot of, Mickey almost made too many mistakes for what you expect out of the caliber of player he is.
Well,
and it felt like it was
that.
really detrimental to their success.
He talked about that in the post game. He was like, I had an awful fucking split. He was like, he was like, we are lucky that my team was able to carry me.
Yeah, you expect you just expect a lot more. And
to be fair, from such a veteran, exceptional CLG alumnus such as Finn, what do you expect? You're gonna have
he's really impressed me. I really thought Finn was trash, and I never liked him on Rogue and all around, and good for him. He's actually,
that's why I picked CLG last year to do decently. I thought Finn was gonna be a good player for him.
There you go.
Took him to go back to the LEC.
I think overall successful year for XL. Made playoffs for the first time.
Nuke Duck
made
was
it back to
amazing.
back.
Nuke Duck
really has had some of the best seasons I think he's ever had, and he's a veteran who has struggled.
And Patrick,
also, good for him. Patrick was playing out of his mind. They're a solid team. I hope they can fix whatever's been plaguing them for playoffs. But overall, I think it's a good success. I'm happy they made it back to back. It's great for the org. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah.
Next team, Fnatic.
I'm also just really happy that the 7th place team doesn't fucking make playoffs.
I know, right? Fnatic. Fnatic is a better version of Summer Split. Fnatic to me is a better version of Vitality. 5 individual players who are playing talented and playing well, but not fully playing as a team. Just more of it than Vitality was. It's great to see them kind of make it in. I think Hyllisang has been playing really badly. I still think he's a great player, but he's really been dying by it.
Yeah, I know.
I think Humanoid.
It's like Bwipo.
I think Humanoid has been horrendous as well. Look, they scraped in. Good for them.
I think they bow out early.
It's hard to see.
In the playoff.
I think XL is going to drop this team.
It's hard to see them actually.
But by the way, for all due credit to Fnatic, a team that was coming into the weekend with certain question marks about whether they'd make it. 3-0 weekend.
Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter.
Very cool.
But
yeah,
they're gonna get.
But that's clutch. It may be, but they made playoffs. They came up
guess
clutch.
Guess who didn't clutch up and make playoffs?
Listen, I don't care about Vitality, so
just saying those are the differences.
Yep, it is. Moving on, fourth place team, Misfits. Now, they're actually tied with Rogue. Rogue took the third place. I'm a bit lost here. Like, even in the match where they smashed Fnatic, it was very much...
They lost to Fnatic the game before.
They lost the game before, but when they smashed them, hey, guess who popped off? Vetheo. So, it still seems very much the Vetheo show. I think their demise was overstated. They finished in fourth. It's a very respectable end. But I still maintain it's a Vetheo show. And like, if you slam him, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, if you just gank the shit out of mid, what are they gonna do?
Yeah. They lose to G2. They lose to Fnatic.
Yeah.
They beat BDS, but and then they beat the Fnatic game. Kind of not necessarily limping. The weekend before that, they beat Astralis and they beat Mad Lions. Now we have questions about Mad Lions that were not resolved this weekend.
Yeah,
dude. I mean,
I think you're right. I think Misfits is probably the hardest team for me to predict in this because it's like you watch him in that last game and recency bias. You're like, fuck, this team's good, right? But it's the Vetheo show and
you put him against Caps who can lane pretty well. Obviously, he's fucking Caps, and it puts a lot more pressure on Misfits to then funnel resources to their carry, which is Vetheo at this point. So yes, he winds up with a higher CS, but it changes fundamentally the game because G2 is better everywhere else around the map. So
of course
they win that easy.
All right, Rogue third place, worst season finale.
This is exactly what needed to happen.
You've been saying this. You take it off, Scoot, because I don't really have much on this. I feel like they've been mediocre. I'm concerned. They've been good and at times great, and then other times they're not so good. And I mean, look, they've only lost 4 games? I think it is across the season. Let me just check.
I mean, if Rogue was trading...
7 games. They lost 7 games. I don't know. I'm finding it hard to...
take it first, but I have some interesting info.
If Rogue was trading kind of in a holding pattern, which they've been doing this entire split, right, we'd be looking at levels right now, and there's 2 breakthrough resistance levels. They are either going to win it all this split and start a blue fire in the LEC for about the next year, where they don't lose it all, or this is the end of the Rogue as we've known it for the past few years, and they probably will go through a rough patch. Now, I think needs to happen...
Let me go ahead and tell you which. I can tell you which one it is.
What needs to happen here is Rogue need to find themselves in the lower bracket somehow. I don't really care how they do it, and it needs to be, not a Game 5 heartbreaker or something along that line. But I think the ceiling is still there. It just needs to kick in when their back's against the wall. And
I'm worried mentally.
Do we know if that's going to happen?
They've lost in the finals too many times.
I don't know, dude. I think there's enough.
They're going to find themselves in the lower bracket after the first game against Mad Lions. So I
don't even know if that's true. I could just see them getting hot and walking through this playoffs, even in the upper bracket. I just need.
You know what? You're the oracle. You predicted so much at last playoffs that I would love it. That would just make me so happy to see Rogue finally win.
I think Rogue can win this in a best of 5.
They've always been able to win this. They've always been able to win it. They just never have won it.
Nick, I have heartbreak for you. Our beloved friend. Robert in our Discord has been doing over the past couple weeks and months some advanced modeling of both of League, so the LEC and the LCS. His insight is that Rogue kind of fucking sucks.
Yeah,
they're just not a good team. And he actually had he literally, where we were messaging on the side, he picked Rogue to lose to BDS.
Wow.
Now that is concerning.
That's a fucking prediction. Yeah,
that was a prediction. He also thought they were going to lose to Vitality, and if Vitality wasn't the biggest choke job in the history, maybe they do lose that game. He did have them favored against XL, but based on the discussions that he and I are having, I am very concerned about this Rogue team. Scoot, to your point, whether they're going to win it all or kind of flame out, I could see this be a quick 0-2 for playoffs. Lose the Mad and then lose their.
I don't think it happens that way. But
I'm a bit worried. Like the eye test to me is that their spirit just isn't it. I feel like the spirit's been broken a little bit.
I think you're right. I like the spirit analogy.
It's not that they're not talented. It's not that they're not great. They are. It's just that they've reached the final so many times and it's just not working. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
The team just isn't the same.
It's
the issue I have.
It's not the chemistry that the previous splits had.
The issue I have with my own prediction is that I realistically just want G2 to win again. But XL, that would be fucking crazy.
They might.
But like G2 is awesome.
G2, this is our next team. G2 stole first place from our next team, Mad Lions, who started off so strong and dominant, holding on, performing so well, and then have just kind of fizzled at the end of this split.
Totally.
You say that Rogue is going to lose to Mad Lions? Well, they actually beat them. So when you look at Mad Lions' last 5 matches, they beat BDS, big whoop. They beat Astralis, big whoop. No one gives a shit. They lost to G2. They lost to Misfits, and they lost to Rogue. So that's 3 games that they have lost to the top 4 teams in the last out of the last 5.
I think. Listen,
I hear you.
That's concerning. That is concerning. Now, I wasn't necessarily that Rogue win is not like, ooh, Rogue's gonna smash them, but I'm a little bit. This has been a little bit of a trend since the mid split.
Elyoya, Niski,
these
guys are built for playoffs. They fucking love Mad Lions.
I think Niski's been pretty bad recently,
and Mad Lions fucking playoffs are just too.
But Niski wasn't a part of that Mad Lions playoffs.
Niski didn't make it. Elyoya didn't make playoffs last split. There's a lot of... I can poke some holes in there. Look, regardless, they were the number one ranked team for so long. I can totally see them getting back to that. I'm just a little bit worried about this recent performance.
Totally.
That's what it is.
They had
I'm
trouble sustaining an extremely high level of play for a long period of time, and I actually think that decline started a little bit earlier. It just came to light when they actually started losing matches. I think their wins became slowly less dominant over teams. You started to see the trend towards a downward spiral, and I think this is kind of the opposite of what we've seen Mad Lions teams come in with to playoffs in years prior. We've seen them lose before playoffs before, but we also...
Maybe they're taking a break. Maybe they started to burn out. They were like, hey, we've got enough to take first, second place. We don't care which one it is. So there's a lot of ways I think you can explain this out. But nonetheless, I'm a little bit concerned about it. And if there was a team, could I see Mad Lions being upset by Rogue? Yes.
Of course.
Is Mad Lions also good enough to win it all? Yes. So I think it's an interesting one there. G2 number 1 ranked team.
G2 and Rogue are the best 2 teams in the playoffs.
I would love that, but only if Rogue wins. I can't.
G2's fucking sick, baby.
G2 first place. I don't know where this came from, because the last time I checked, G2 was going 4-4, and they were fucking losing everything. Then somehow they win the split, 12-6, first place team. They're looking good.
Already secured worlds. So they're already into Worlds based off their previous where they placed in the spring split. Do we think that means they don't even care as much? Do you think that these guys are going to be...
No, these guys...
No.
They won't go back.
Caps cares only about one thing, and it's playing on a playoff stage in front of fans. And of course they want to go back-to-back. They'd be dumb not to. This team rocks. And what they do perfectly is mid-season lulls for content, pick it up at the end... get into first place. I mean, they're so fun to watch, and the amount that we've seen the game change over the course of the last 2 splits too, and what is meta and them being adaptable.
Yeah.
Pristine. Love it. Also, this roster beginning of the year, pretty big risk as well.
I think
the bigger point is this team came on fucking electric run in the spring split playoffs, makes it to MSI, just absolutely throttling teams and looks like a world beater, comes in to the summer split, and all of a sudden isn't performing as strongly, right? And I think that to your point, Nikki, 4-4, a bit caught off guard by that. And to Scoot's point, trying to just give us content, which we appreciate. Thank you, G2, for the content.
Well, they got very used to just beating the shit out of EG over and over again. So,
so G2 is back. Like, this team, if they don't win it, I would be like, I know we're going to talk about odds later, and right now there are no futures for the LEC playoffs. But if you think I'm betting anyone other than G2, you're fucking crazy.
You know what, to play devil's advocate here, and don't get me wrong, don't hold this against me. G2 wasn't good in spring split regular season. They went on a miracle
really
run.
Weren't. Crazy.
They went on a miracle run in kind of in the playoffs, but they really weren't fundamentally that great in the regular season.
Correct.
Again, this season I'm not fully convinced. Now, this might be chilling out. Like we say, they balance out. They don't want to get burnt out. But I think it's hard to say that them and Mad Lions aren't the best teams. They really are. They're clicking well. Teams are playing well. And when I look at them, whereas when I look at Rogue, I'm not convinced. I look at G2, I am convinced. I remember Mad Lions, and I'm convinced. Right now, when I look at them, I'm a bit shaky on that one. One of the things I do want to point out, though, G2 first place 12-6. That's not a great. That's a 66.
I think it speaks to
that's a first place placement with 66%. I can't remember the last time the LEC had such a bad record. And you look at the LCS 15-3. This is a.
There's no dominant team, but
and I know, Scoot, you're gonna be like, but it's more competitive. I don't know if that's the case.
That's not my point. My point is that
it's all about late season performance, and that's where G2 is performing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the league as a whole. I'm this 12-6. I'm looking a bit beyond towards Worlds. I'm like, is this the weakest the LEC has been in a while? And
I kind of actually agree with you to a point. However, I do like the competitiveness. I think a lot of this has to do with teams being so comfortable playing with a very similar roster over the years and maybe making one or two piece changes. But, like, a lot of shit got switched up this year for a lot of teams, and especially teams that you would expect to dominate. So
yeah,
I'm not entirely surprised that we've ended up here. And honestly, it's been fairly entertaining to a point throughout the regular season to not watch Rogue just put people on their backs and go to town on them. But, you know, maybe it is worse, but I think
it's like, look, it's one of those one where this is the first time I'm trying to pull it up, and for some reason it's showing.
But it's one of those things where you can be like, yeah, it's worse, right? And we can say that now, but say all three of those teams look very good on a world stage, then you're like, oh shit, it's actually just more balanced and they're playing at a higher level. I don't think that's the case, but
So I'm
almost too early to
call. I'm gonna make that case, Scoot. I actually think you're gonna see at Worlds the LEC have the best showing that they've had in a while. But I think it's going to come from the likes of G2 and I think you're going to see Rogue make it to I think you're going to see Rogue G2 make it to Worlds. And
Dude, but I mean, like, I don't.
Yeah, I think Rogue makes it to Worlds.
I've watched...
No, you know what Rogue 100% does, because we got 4 teams from Europe now going to Worlds. So it's going to be G2, Mad Lions, Rogue, and probably...
Well, Mad Lions doesn't have any points from the spring because they didn't make playoffs.
But
so they actually have to do pretty well just to get enough points to make sure they do make it. So if you get a Fnatic or a Misfits who had a better playoff run, like, Mad's not guaranteed to make this if they fucking lose to Rogue and then don't do well.
Just FYI, I am looking back, and actually 12-6, there's actually quite a few teams that went 13-5. 2 splits Rogue did a couple of times when they came first place. 15-3 has happened, 14-4. So this isn't as bad as it feels. I think that this is something I was thinking about a few weeks ago. The difference between the LCS and the LEC is that when you look outside the top 3 or 4, I feel like in the LEC it's more competitive. So
you're way less
Misfits,
Fnatic,
XL, Vitality are all teams that are actually, I do believe, are competitive and able to challenge the top teams to an extent. Whereas
BDS just beat Rogue.
Maybe not that, but when like Fnatic is a real contender. I think Vitality was a contender that failed, but like barring their failure, they should have been a contender. Misfits has always been there, knocking on that top 4 or top 3,
SK
trying
was
to break
very
in.
competitive, especially near the
SK
end.
was competitive for years. They haven't been recently, but you're looking at that top 7, top 6 teams, and they are fairly competitive. Whereas in LCS, I feel outside of the top 2, top 3, there's such a steep drop off that it's almost irrelevant. And definitely once you start getting outside of the top 6, 7, it's like, oh, that's like, it doesn't matter. And I think that's a big issue.
I think you're being a bit hypocritical in that capacity. Like, if you look at the LCS, this year alone, you had freaking Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, EG, and, I mean, Cloud9's always, you basically always have at least 4 teams right now that are, like, kind of around it.
Yeah.
And fucking
And then outside of that,
G2,
no one else has been.
Rogue.
No, outside of that, everyone else has been irrelevant. Like a real contender. Like
point,
I'm talking about
time,
a real contender. And this split is an anomaly with CLG.
If you look at the LEC, it's been Fnatic and G2,
Rogue,
and then just recently
Mad
Rogue.
Lions.
Mad Lions just recently.
Rogue has been winning first place regular season all for like the last 2 years. Mad Lions won back to back. G2 was at the top. Fnatic has been competing to try and win, so already at 4. And Vitality was constructed to But no, Vitality
fucking didn't do shit in the fucking
Yeah,
fall.
they didn't.
No, they
didn't. They didn't, but they were constructed to actually be competitive. Whereas
yeah, but
when
guess
you're
what?
looking
That
at,
isn't worth anything. You can't
But
just
you compared to
give
the
them credit
seventh
for
place
being
team-
constructed.
but when you compare
but
it
that's
to what
the
the seventh
intention
place,
was to be competitive. Whereas
When you
like
look at
in
the
the
seventh place
LCS, it's
team-
like, oh, we can just chalk this up.
who's
and look
seventh
at
place
next
in
year,
seventh place team of TSM was not constructed to fucking win.
that was a
anything.
fuck arounders club all year.
Yeah,
To be
even
fair,
FlyQuest.
TSM
FlyQuest
was
is
actually TSM's had some issues, but it's not like that. Historically, that's a team that has never taken a season off.
But I mean, they kind of did this year, and maybe that has to do with legal shit that's going on, or like whatever's internal. But like,
and
at
I
the
would
same
also
time, they
say
did
that
kind of take off.
EG prior to this year, when TSM, it's just
Yeah, they were
I feel like
gatekeepers,
there's a much steeper drop off between
Agreed.
the top 4 of the LEC and the LCS. And I think
you're
that affects
biased
things.
based on world placement and performance. In the
But
past.
that's like all fundamentally that matters. And
Yeah.
I will say this,
You're like
though.
you're biased by the results, Nikita. Stop.
No, but what I'm saying is you're talking about like that you're comparing, you're saying that I think your point originally was not comparing LEC to LCS, but rather when you look at all 10 teams that there's a bit more of parity across all the teams.
If they played
but
10 on 10 in one
my
big
point
rift,
is I don't think
the
there
LEC
is
would
more
win.
parity. Like I mean, I guess the worst team, Astralis and SK at least were 7-11.
Dignitas's team was
Decent.
not constructed to win at all. I don't think.
This is kind of what I'm getting at. Is unfortunately I do feel that teams like Dig, like Immortals,
But like, are you suggesting that BDS
even
was
TSM
constructed to fucking win?
No, BDS wasn't. But when I'm looking at something like
How about Astralis? Fucking.
I think
yeah,
Xerxes.
Astralis made
Astralis?
changes
100%.
within their budget that they could
Yeah.
actually win with.
Dude, Kobe,
And to a
veteran,
point, like, they
bringing
looked
in
good for a brief period
Vizichachi,
of time.
Xerxes, like those are like serious players. Yeah, I do think
Okay.
that they tried to
SK,
really break in.
Gilius,
SK has been
SK's decisions were questionable on who they
Treats.
got, but I think it was 100%
Treats is one of the best
reasonable.
supports.
Yeah, Gilius
And
is
he-
also like a very
yeah.
hit or miss player.
they've like look.
just saying,
all I'm
like,
saying,
Those are names though. Like those are
I think-
household names. You read off Diggs
Yeah.
roster, and I'm like,
I
who's
think
that?
what I'm trying to say.
Who's
Sorry,
that?
I think what I'm
River.
also trying to say
Who's
is
that?
that
You
I
can't
think
use Dignitas as an example because fucking BDS had no one.
I think Excel is
BDS
more
is
of
a
a
new team.
threat. Is much more of a threat to the top teams than FlyQuest.
Sure,
And
unquestionably.
I think and I think whether that's the intent or the outcome or however you want to place it, I just think when you're looking in the LEC, you have this middle pack of teams that I think are really challenging the top teams. Whereas in the LCS, I think the middle pack teams are not really challenging the top teams.
Correct. And by the way,
and that's my
not
point.
to play devil's advocate to myself, but that's also shown in the fucking odds. Like when you see the games between teams in the LCS, you get like 3 to 1.3. Yeah. It's like fuck off. I can't bet on this. It's not even fun.
Exactly. Anyway, that's the recap. This has been a fun year. I have enjoyed it. I gotta say, like watching Vitality's downfall, CLG's comeuppance, so much fun. EG smashing it.
We have to do our recap.
We need CLG
of the LEC. Yeah, how bad did we do?
So, Nikki, you will be pleased to know that you had Vitality in first place, followed by Fnatic, G2, Rogue, Mad Lions, Misfits, SK, XL, BDS, and Astralis.
Okay.
Scoot, you also had Vitality in first place, followed by Fnatic, Mad Lions, G2, Rogue, SK, Misfits, Astralis, BDS, and XL. And then your beloved me had Fnatic in first, so not as bad. Close, but not quite as bad. Followed by Vitality, so there we go. And then Rogue, Mad Lions, G2. I had BDS in sixth, so that was a good pick. And then Misfits, SK, Astralis, and I had XL in last place. Yeah. So across the board, we were
come here for that expert analysis, guys. You know,
LCS fucking
nailed it.
Only talk to me when we're in playoffs. You don't need to listen to anything else. Just it's all good.
Or in playoffs.
Listen, Nikki, I do want to throw one. Yeah. Actually, it's not even a good question because I know what the answer is already.
Go.
Who's beating like a Gen G or a T1 out of like who stands a better chance between EG and G2 in your opinion?
Oh. I think G2. I do still think it's G2. I think EG's come a long way. I think EG gets a lot of shit by MSI, but it's like two really young rookies, and I think they've grown so much from that. So I would say that I do think G2 has the better chance. But I think we're going to see a much better performance out of EG at Worlds. I actually think this year... I'm not saying this is not the hopium copium. I don't think... the LCS is gonna nail it, but I do actually think this is a year that if we get TL 100 Thieves and EG at World, I think one or two of them could have actually a good performance. I think this could be a good year.
To a point, though, I do feel like EG may have more pop-off potential than G2, and they didn't show that at MSI, which I think either of those teams beating a Gen G or a T1 who are the two best
China's
teams in
winning,
the world
though.
would
China
take
is so
a
good.
pop-off.
LPL right now? Nope. LPL is just fucking... LPL's winning it.
T1.
But what about...
No,
except for Gen G now.
Every time the LPL has come into a Worlds since I've been watching League... Yeah, I know. They've lost 3 matches this time. Whoa, that's fucking crazy. Not playing
but in their matches,
ass.
they're not looking the best.
Yeah, they keep 1-2ing people, but have you seen their fucking comps? They had like 5 ADCs one time, and they still won.
Like that? Yeah, but
because they're awesome.
It is funny seeing things like the fact that LGD is just so fucking bad this year when they were like at Worlds like pretty far just a year back.
Yeah.
You got Top Esports 14-2, JD Gaming 14-2, Victory 5 having a killer season with RNG as well at 13-3.
Anyway, look, this is an hour and 15 minutes. Not LPL. LPL, though, is going to win it, I think. Final thoughts, boys. Like I said, I've enjoyed this year. I actually think it's been pretty exciting across both leagues and different storylines. You know, XL, EG, CLG, Vitality's complete and abject failure, even C9's implosion. It's 100 Thieves just kind of playing really solidly. I'm excited for playoffs, and I'm excited for Worlds.
Yes.
Well, not only that.
Seconded.
Two of these co-hosts are going to be at some of those playoffs that you're very mentioning, and potentially Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the podcast, Chris and I might have a little surprise for you if you pull up to us at LCS Championship and let us know that you're a fan. You'll have to find out what that is, but yeah, we'll be at the United Center for the finals, so that'll be lit.
Nikki, come to New York for the for Worlds.
I would love to.
I got a couch for
Maybe
you.
I'll fly back. Via America.
You won't.
I'll fly back via America. Moving back to Europe at some point, which I'm looking forward to. We'll see.
We're excited to have you back on somewhat normal hours with us.
This has been actually. I think this might be more convenient.
Good.
I think this might be more convenient than Europe. I unfortunately, I think European time zone
it would be 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. right now for you.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. It'll be a rough one.
Whatever. It is what it is.
All right, boys. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Please follow us on Twitter,
fun weekend.
YouTube.
That was a fun weekend. That was a fun Super Week.
It was a fun Super Week. It was fun. So you can find at Best of 3 on all social media, YouTube, podcast networks. Just look up at Best of 3 Network. Please subscribe, like, comment. Helps us a lot. And join our Discord. Be great to see you there. Everyone new is always very welcome. Thanks for tuning in.
Combos are great.
And we'll be releasing a match prediction later this week for the games in the LCS this weekend.
And are we going to cover the LEC as well?
No, we'll do that next week when it's before that happens.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it. Bye, everyone.
Love it. Toodaloo.
Peace out.